showing out, making moves, no doubt. FFA pride, it's what we're all about. From classroom dreams to real world flair, we got the stories you won't find anywhere. Beyond the jacket where the stories unfold, voices of the future, fearless and bold. Tune in now, let the passion ignite. It's more than a jacket, it's a way of life. Beyond the jacket where passion meets purpose.
Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Jacket. I am pumped up about this Friday's episode. We have Miss Bella Baker with us here today, and I'm so excited to hear about her love for her blue jacket. Bella, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me on, Paige. I'm a really big fan of Beyond the Jacket. I remember my first time listening to an episode was in an airport, and it was the episode of T. Wayne. It was incredible. I was immediately hooked. Hi, my name is Bella Baker. I'm from Northeast Missouri. I am from a very small town called Atlanta, Missouri. We have 400 people in our town, and my class size is 12. So very small town. Farming, rural community. I am from a cow-calf operation, and we also do row crops. I'm going to be a senior this year, so it is my last year in FFA, and I'm really excited to kick that off. My SAE, I have 5. I do chicken processing. I sell fruit and vegetables at a roadside stand. I do ag communications, and I have a dairy and a beef herd. And also on the side, I do photography. So that's a little bit about me, but I'm really excited about this.
I'm super excited to jump into everything you just mentioned, Bella. I think this is going to be a fantastic episode, and thank you for listening to us. Listeners, once again, if you want to be like Bella and tell your story on the podcast, just fill out our guest form in our bio on our social media pages, and we can get in contact with you. Let's jump straight into it, Bella. What first inspired you to join FFA?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my town, like I said, I'm from a really small rural community. It's kind of a tradition to join FFA when you get into high school. I got started pretty early in 7th grade. I was our chapter's, assistant. We didn't really have a middle school chapter, but my ag advisor let me help throughout all the events. My dad chartered our chapter in 1999, and so I kind of knew I was born for FFA. I, started in 4-H when I was 5, and so agricultural opportunities like 4-H and FFA have always been my calling. I do feel like when you pay those membership dues at first, it's not really the kickstart. I'd say my passion began when I went to my first national convention. Those national officers, as we all know, are incredible every single year. Like I said, I joined 4-H when I was 5, and I've been doing public speaking ever since. And so I've just kind of got into a habit where I'm pretty robotic. I get the script, I'm ready to go. But at my first national convention, those national officers were so passionate and genuine, and they cared about what they were talking about. And that really flipped the switch for me. I was like, FFA is genuine, you're telling your story, and you also have these refined skills. And so that was kind of my kickstart for FFA.
Absolutely. I'm the same way, Bella. Mine was state convention. However, I'm a little biased. Florida FFA puts on one of the best, but I came from Florida FFA, so I guess I'm biased. But watching the state and national officers stand up on that stage with so much poise and just feeling the adrenaline sitting in your chair with 6,000 people to when you go to nationals, over 70,000 FFA kids. And it's just a feeling that if you haven't been, you can't convey. And it just lights a passion, man. And I'm so glad that there's so many of us across the nation that get to tell others and tell the story, like you were saying. Is there a point in your FFA career that really defined your love for it? Maybe it was working through your SAEs and knowing I like hands-on things, or maybe it was in leadership positions. What was the point that you were like, this is my thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question because, FFA has a lot of those moments where you will just be like, man, I really like this part, or I like this part. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to FFA. I'm the kind of girl that wants to do every single CDE possible just to experience all of them. They're all so different. A defining moment for me, my grandma always used to say, surround yourself with things that grow, whether that's crops or cattle or even people. So through my SAE, I've been surrounded by things that grow for a long time. Watching those cattle grow up and eventually getting to show them at the county fair and then processing them to sell them is a really incredible experience that FFA has gifted me with. Another point is just being at those speaking contests, being surrounded by so many FFA members that dedicate time, because people don't realize a speech takes forever. You have to write it and just refine those skills and practice. And so FFA has really showed me that there are so many like-minded young adults just like me throughout Missouri and across our nation. And so, one of my defining moments would be definitely working with my SAE and seeing the hard work pay off.
Absolutely. I was a LDE gal, which obviously is a direct transfer to the Ag Communications SAE pathway. I like to talk, and even though those teachers at one point were like, Miss Page, you have to stop talking in the classroom. Hey, man, I get paid to talk now, so I know that's a little one-up. But anyway, what was your favorite LDE, CDE? Were you pro one over the other? I know I was.
Yeah, I did Extemp this year. 100% loved it. My favorite thing.
Me too.
Yeah, I've been waiting to do it all throughout my FFA career, and I was going to wait till senior year, but I was like, nope, I've got to get it done. Junior year, this is my year. I'm going to do it. All throughout the year, I got to study ag issues, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I did D1 and D2, and I fell in love with the aspect of finding that topic and studying every single thing about it. My freshman year topic was about red water, which is a disease in cattle. And so I would spend hours printing out articles and highlighting them and just getting ready for questions for my speech. And when I got over to Extemp, I was like, well, this is the whole point. Printing out articles and highlighting, I could do this. And so, like you said, I agree. I love to talk. So Extemp was a little bit challenging trying to, measure how long I should talk, when I need to cut it off. I'm proud to say I never went over or under. I somehow stayed in the minutes every single time. And I ended, somehow, I don't know how, but I ended the year off with second place at Missouri FFA State Convention. And so I was pretty proud of that finish. That year, I also competed in state livestock judging and fell in love with that. I get to compete at Denver and Ag-Sarbin this year. And so, livestock judging was interesting for me because I feel like in that competition, a lot of kids have grown up in it in 4-H, and surprisingly, I did not. This was my first year. I've only done 3 livestock competitions, which is insane, and just really found a success there. I think it was the public speaking skills and giving reasons. But yeah, livestock judging and Extemp are definitely my favorite LDE and CDE for sure.
So I think we're sisters from a different mister, because I loved extemporaneous as well, and I loved livestock judging. And I think that's a great point, Bella, that those two are actually kind of relational. Being able to do Extemp and speak on your feet and only having those 30 minutes to prepare, and then going into livestock judging where you don't get 30 minutes to prepare. You're lucky if you have 10, and you have to speak on your feet and know those animals or know those issues and be able to speak confidently and very poised. And I think you bring up a great point there. I always said that my Extemp helped so much with reasons because I could memorize or remember things really quickly. And I can tell you, I probably wasn't that great at reasons until after competing in extemporaneous. But it's great how those transfer. Beyond the Jacket focuses a lot on SAEs, and I don't want to take up too much time talking about our love for talking. So let's jump into those 5 SAEs. Which one's your favorite?
Yeah, that's really hard for me. I love them all. I think one of my favorites is, I'm a beef girly to my core. I love beef cattle. Yeah, but I've really found a passion in dairy steers kind of uniquely. My brother actually has a disability. And so when we found that out a couple of years ago, we switched over to showing dairy cattle because they're more docile. We were having a little bit of trouble with our beef steers and heifers. They were getting a little bit crazy. And so when Brody was diagnosed with that, we switched over to dairy. And it's really been a blessing for us this year at the county fair. You know, we had a lot of success there, and we're headed to the state fair, and we're excited about that. I've had a lot of, ups and downs in my dairy path. My first cow that I owned, my first dairy cow, calved while my parents were out of town. So I had to figure out how to deal with that all on my own. I had a lot of trouble, a lot of tears there. Dairy cattle produce way more milk, as we know, and so I had to find another calf that day by myself. So it was just crazy. I was carrying calves and trying to get them to latch. It was insane, but SAEs really teach you a lot. When I was 5 years old, I showed my first bucket calf. I realized then don't get attached to a calf too soon. And so throughout 4-H and FFA, I've learned those skills that will carry over to my career as well as my life. And so I'm really thankful for my SAE. And I think that my favorite would have to be dairy cattle production.
That's awesome. No, I did not have 5. I had 3. I had a beef cattle entrepreneurship, SAE, ag communications, and an environmental land stewardship one. So I can resonate with having diversity within those AET applications.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's a labor of love for sure. You love those SAEs, but filling out those applications are no fun in the spring. But all of that said, you said you were a 4-H kid. I also was. My beef cattle SAE technically started before I knew what an SAE was.
Yes.
Is that the case for you with some of yours?
Oh, yeah, totally. So, most of my SAEs were started before I joined FFA. Definitely beef cattle. Like I said, I grew up on a beef cattle operation, and, my grandma taught me how to make a bottle when I was about 3 years old. That's always been my job, I'm the bottle maker of the family. And this year I honed a new skill. I can feed 3 bottle kevs at a time. If anybody needs anyone to feed their bottle kevs, that's my skill. And so, yeah, I say it started a long time ago, especially for ag communications. I've always known that I wanted to go into journalism. And so I think my freshman year, I started at Nemo Press Box and started my SAEs through that. So I got pretty started early in all of my SAEs.
You and me both, girl. And I think that's great skills to have, even if it's feeding 3 bottle calves at once, or maybe just being able to speak on your feet and have that industry knowledge. One of my favorite parts of SAEs were the traveling that went along with it, or even connecting on an interest level like you and I are right now, Bella.
Mm-hmm.
You went to National FFA Convention and you got to see all of the proficiency winners on stage. You're like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea and a super cool project. Like, I want to do that. Or even meeting some students in the hallway at state convention and you're bonding over beef production because that's what you both have done since you were 8 years old. And I think that's so great, as well as those leadership positions, man, and growing yourself. I see here that you are an area officer or were. Can you talk to us a little bit about your leadership positions in FFA?
Yeah, my FFA career, I was really excited at the beginning, and I still am. I did everything, I would say, a year early than traditionally. Like I said, I'm going to be a senior, and I already have my state degrees, so yeah. I ran for area office a year early and received that. I was really blessed. I ran for president as a junior, and I got reporter. So thankful I did. Ag communications is my thing, and I really got to thrive throughout Area 3's Instagram and Facebook. I kind of kickstarted a new generation for us. We started making reels and more posts, and Missouri FFA is kind of a competition to see whose area is the best. And throughout social media, that was really helpful for us to, kind of create these viral Missouri FFA moments that got shared throughout the year. And so, yeah, I'm really blessed for all the leadership positions I've had throughout FFA. Looking forward, I'm hoping to run for state office this year, and I'm really excited about that opportunity as well.
Absolutely. Nope, I can agree. I ran for our district offices and things, and I loved my time being able to serve Florida FFA in a way that was bigger than our chapter, but not quite the entire state. Also, as a sophomore, junior, I was the early girl as well. My ag teacher always said the 5 Ps: prior planning prevents poor performance. And I think I took that a little too far.
No, I love that.
I was always ahead of the 8 ball, except when it came to homework. Kind of let the ball drop there because I loved FFA so much.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That's just throwing myself under the bus. Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk about your ag comm photography side of things, especially because that's my love.
I love it. We are the same. So my ag communications SAE started with my first ag teacher. Fun fact, I've had 3 ag teachers in the past couple of years. We're a 1-teacher ag program. And so, I've gotten a lot of different opportunities throughout all my different teachers throughout the years. But my first ever ag teacher kind of helped me kickstart that. I remember at National Convention, I was watching the Proficiency Awards and got to see the Ag Communications one, and the winner was actually Jack Lingenfelter, so that was a full circle moment for me as well. Ag Communications is what I want to do in my future, and so FFA giving me that opportunity to kickstart it. I started freshman year, like I said, in 2023, I believe it was. I kickstarted Nemo Press Box. Nemo Press Box started when a local radio company got let off of all their employees. It was a really sad deal. And so they began an online radio station called NemoPressBox.com. And their main priority was highlighting sports, which, where we're from, sports are important. But, I kind of went to them and I said, we have a ton of talented Northeast agricultural students and teachers that should be highlighted. And so that was kind of the birth of Students in Ag. And so I get my own radio show for them. And throughout the past couple of years, I've met hundreds of students from Northeast Missouri that, have incredible SAEs and incredible stories. And I'm super proud to share their story and share the roots of Northeast Missouri that they have.
That's so unique, Bella. And I love my podcasting, and I'm sure you love your radio show because of those connections and meeting new friends, and then being able to join them again at the National FFA Convention and growing those connections. But you don't get where you are alone. Is there a mentor, a family member that has really played a pivotal role in your FFA career?
Yeah, I have a ton of mentors who have helped me throughout my life. I'd first say my grandma kind of kickstarted, and instilled in me the values of hard work. That was really important from a young age. And then, my dad, of course, my freshman year, he helped me a lot with speeches. We would sit down together and we would try to come up with speech topics and write it and all sorts of things. But as I've grown up, I've kind of become more and more independent, especially in extemp. My dad didn't help me a single time. And I was like, well, I guess this is how it is now. I'm old. But my mentors have grown from my family to my ag teachers and other FFA members. I've got to meet quite a few national officers and state officers and just FFA members in general who have really impacted me. I think it was my sophomore year. I was sitting in the library at my school, and I received a letter, and it said from National FFA, and I was like, what? I opened it, and Thad Bergschneider had written me a letter after Missouri FFA State Convention, and that changed me. I was like, handwritten letters after an event is going to be my thing. I have to do this because the impact of that letter, I remember smiling so big and just thinking like I met a true, genuine friend who is a super big influence in FFA, and it was really awesome. Jack was also one of those officers that we got to hang out with when he came to Missouri, and they're just also genuine. They have great stories, as well as my current ag teacher, Miss Stone. She's a great person and a great mentor. She was a state officer a couple years back. She's a pretty young ag teacher. She's 21 years old, and she has completely changed the game for our chapter. We have so many new FFA members that aren't super involved but got involved this year. We had a ton of speeches come out, and it's all thanks to her. So there's a lot of people that have helped me get to where I am today.
It's all those people to have that village behind you to just keep you empowered and moving forward is so great. And I'm so blessed to have it. You're blessed to have it, Bella. And you hope that even if individuals in the Blue Jacket might not have their family, that we as FFA members can rally behind them. I always end off episodes by asking our guest if you had a piece of advice to give to a younger FFA member, maybe even younger you, Bella, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because a lot of younger kids, are always seeking advice, whether they, ask for it or they're just constantly looking for that something to fill their cup. I'd say my advice is to highlight the good. You hear a lot of people my age saying, I cannot wait to get out of high school and graduate and go to college. But I think that we're really blessed to live where we do. Northeast Missouri is full of agricultural students who are talented, and we live in these great communities that support us in everything that we do. And so I just say highlighting the good and sharing that positive, whether it's, noticing that the crowd is full at a baseball game or that your FFA has 10 more public speakers than it did last year. Just highlighting that good and telling someone, hey, look at how far we've come. So just seeking that positive out is my advice. It's something that's pretty easy for you to start doing and adding into your routine. I like advice that's, you can easily access and get started with at the beginning. And so just seeking out that positive and highlighting the good.
Absolutely, Bella. I love that, because my mom always said I was like Winnie the Pooh, finding the sunshine in the little things.
I love that, yes.
If I was ever sick or I had a bad day and my mom would walk into the kitchen, she'd be like, how are you doing today, Paige? And I'd be like, a little bit good. And I might be sick as a dog, but I always would find the positive or the sunshine in each one of those moments. And so I resonate deeply with that, and I hope our listeners do too. Thank you for coming on Beyond the Jacket podcast. You were such a joy to have on the show. Listeners, I hope you take Bella's advice and find the good in each moment in your Blue Jacket and learn from her FFA journey and find interest in these SAEs. Thank you again for joining us this Friday, and we look forward to seeing you next week.